мировое большинство.
The main trend towards establishing a more equitable and sustainable multipolar system will be accompanied by the struggle of old, former leaders, who are concentrated, as I have already said, in the West, with new emerging power centers that represent the global majority. This struggle is gaining momentum and affects almost all geographical regions. Viewing the situation through this lens makes it clear why, for example, a former colonial power like France is attempting to overthrow unfavorable national-oriented governments in the Saharan Sahel zone and other regions of the African continent. These countries long ago ceased to fully orient themselves towards their former metropolis, yet Paris remains persistent, trying to rely not only on opposition in African countries but also on, frankly, terrorist groups and, as you know, on Ukrainian militant formations. It is regrettable that the French elites continue to adhere to these colonial methods, including the sad and well-known principle of divide and rule, which has already cost African nations millions of lives. Important practical contributions to the promotion of unifying initiatives in Eurasia are made by integrative associations such as the Eurasian Economic Union, SCO, and ASEAN. Useful coordination is actively being established among these three organizations. A new height is marked by the Russia-Africa Strategic Partnership. Last December, the second ministerial meeting of the Russia-Africa Partnership Forum was held in Cairo. This meeting, and the discussion that took place there, demonstrated very good prospects for further development of our interaction and agreed on approaches to organizing the third Russia-Africa Summit, which is scheduled for the current year. Russia is defending its legitimate rights in the emerging multipolar world order amidst fierce competition, and we often have to do this against the reluctance of the Western minority, who refuse to temper their excessive ambitions and deal respectfully with everyone. The Westerners are unwilling to do so, with all who are ready to work on the platform of sovereign equality and other principles of international law. Such countries are the majority. They are our partners, reliable and promising. Yet the West has not rid itself of the mania of its colonial and, dare I say, slave-owning grandeur. The dramatic events at the beginning of this year, including the US armed invasion of Venezuela, the American pressure on Cuba, attempts to destabilize the situation in Iran, and the crisis around Greenland, confirmed our assessment that the world has entered an era of rapid and profound changes. Some experts even talk of an era of upheaval. It is evident that this is not some fleeting phenomenon, but a new stage of global development, possibly an era. This stage may last for many years, even decades. The uneasy situation in the sphere of strategic stability does not add to optimism, in the degradation of which a number of European Russophobes baselessly accuse Russia itself. Meanwhile, the initiative put forward by President Putin for the further voluntary observance by parties of the central quantitative limitations laid down in the Treaty on Strategic Offensive Arms was left without an official response from the American side. We proceed from the premise that the moratorium announced by the President remains in place, but only as long as the US does not exceed the mentioned limits. Overall, we will act responsibly and thoughtfully based on an analysis of US military policy, which we conduct daily, and the general situation in the strategic sphere. Against the backdrop of the Russophobic hysteria sweeping through Europe, the notably servile position of the European Union towards Washington's claims on Greenland is remarkable. As President Putin noted, we proceed from the premise that this issue directly does not concern us. The US, Denmark, and Greenland should sort it out themselves, considering the opinions of the inhabitants of the world's largest island, to whom official Copenhagen has been quite cruel over the years and decades. One could say, treated them as second-class people. There are enough facts concerning this. Of course, in the case of the militarization of Greenland, creating military potentials aimed at Russia, we will take adequate countermeasures, including military-technical. Our principled position, nevertheless, is that the Arctic should remain a zone of peace and cooperation. Speaking of Greenland, it cannot be overlooked that, as in many other cases, those advocating for an order based on Western rules openly use double standards. The right of Greenlanders to self-determination is recognized, but the right of the peoples of Crimea, Donbass, and Novorossiya to determine their destiny in unity with Russia is still denied. We categorically disagree with such twisted, overtly biased logic and will defend truth and right in all contacts with international partners and provide political diplomatic assistance. We constantly emphasize that a sustainable resolution of the crisis, which was provoked by the collective West in Ukraine, is impossible without tackling its root causes. Such an approach, as you know, was acknowledged by the Trump administration, and on this basis during the meeting of the presidents of Russia and the US in Alaska in August of last year understandings were reached on how to ensure a sustainable long-term resolution of the Ukrainian issue. These understandings remain on the table. We are grateful to our Emirati friends for their mediation efforts, including providing a platform for organizing negotiations involving representatives of Russia, the US, and Ukraine. Russian negotiators continue to work to ensure that Russia's security on the western borders, the rights of Russian-speaking people, are securely guaranteed, and the threat emanating from the current Kiev regime and its external patrons is eliminated. The exemplary nature of the Russia-China Comprehensive Partnership and Strategic Interaction was recorded during the very recent contact on February 4 via video conference. Our leaders' contact. The head of the Russian state gratefully accepted the invitation to make an official visit to China during the first half of this year. We will actively, productively, and hopefully prepare for this. Incidentally, in just a few days the entire Chinese nation will celebrate the new year according to the lunar calendar, and we wish our friends that in the coming year, the year of the horse, the red horse, the successes of the Chinese nation on the path to prosperity will multiply. The development of our ties with the People's Republic of China has a stabilizing effect on the entire international relations system and simultaneously plays a key role in addressing the strategic task of forming a belt of good neighborliness along Russia's borders. Significant contributions to the creation of the Eurasian architecture are made by the security guarantees treaties with Belarus, the comprehensive strategic partnership with the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and the Islamic Republic of Iran. We stand in solidarity with the peoples of Venezuela and Cuba, who, as I mentioned earlier, are subjected to the most severe external pressure. We intend to provide our friends with all necessary support, together with other like-minded partners, with all those for whom ideals of freedom, sovereign equality, self-determination of nations, and democracy in international affairs are not empty words. Together with our partners in the Union, we continue to discuss and implement initiatives, which were proposed and approved during the BRICS summit under Russia's chairmanship in Kazan in the fall of 2024. One of the most important tasks is to build within BRICS platforms for unfettered trade and economic, monetary, financial, and investment links, platforms that will not be dependent on illegal sanctions and other unfriendly actions by the West in violation of rules and principles of global trade and international economic and financial relations. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the conclusion of the Nuremberg Tribunal. History passed a verdict on the war criminals of the Third Reich and their cohorts. We will seek to ensure that the crimes of Nazis and their accomplices against the citizens of the Soviet Union, which are of no statute of limitations, are recognized by the international community as genocide against the Soviet people. Our foreign policy course, not determined by electoral cycles and personal preferences, will continue to be predictable and long-term in nature. Threats, blackmail, pressure, no matter where they come from, will not affect it. The tasks set by the President for the Foreign Ministry are indeed extensive. We will continue to do everything possible for their successful fulfillment. The key to success lies in the high trust placed in us by society. And in you, dear colleagues, I would like to thank the entire parliamentary body for the camaraderie and interaction in many areas of our foreign policy. Thank you.